Hey, what's up? Welcome to this new video. This one is paper 1-1 of October-November 2009 of A-Level Math. With that being said, let's move on to question number 1. So here we have to solve the equation 3 tan 2x plus 15 equal to 4 for x between the value of 0 and 180. So step by step, we have to first make tan become the subject. You have tan 2x plus 15 equal to 4 over 3. Now, given that tan is a positive value, we have to look at the quadrants. It will be in the first quadrant and then in the third quadrant. This will be simply the value of the angle. Let's call this theta, and this is the value of 180 plus theta. So to find the angle here, 2x plus 15, we have to send tan over here. That will be tan inverse of 4 over 3. So here we have to use degrees, obviously. That will be tan inverse of 4 divided by 3. That will be 53.1. Now, according to the quadrants, it will be the first angle here, and then also this one, which is 180, plus 53.1, that should be 233.1 degrees. Okay, so now we know we have something here. We have to be careful. So here, because we have 2x, let's try to add 360 to each of those values. Again, the reason why we add 360 is because we have 2x, and we may have some values which we might be missing by those two. So that's why we just try and see if that is true or not. So 53.1, let's add 360. That should be 413.1, and then 233.1 plus 360. That will be 593.1. Now solve. 2x will be the value of 53.1 minus 15. That will be 38.1. 233.1 minus 15. That will be 218.1. 413.1 divides or minus 15. 398.1. And then we have 593.1 divided by, so minus 15, that should be 578.1. Now we have to find the value of x, obviously, so x will be divided by 2. 38.1 divided by 2, that should be 19.1, correct to one decimal place. 218.1 divided by 2, that should be 109.1. And then 398.1 divided by 2, that is 199.1, and this will be just too much. Again, it is only to test if we have any values in that range. However, this is just too much. We don't need these two. We just need the two values that we had initially, which is 19.1 for x and 109.1 for x. X is only between the value of 0 and 180. That is your question in relation to trigonometry. Let's move on to the next question. The equation of the curve is this. Okay, good to know. The equation of the line is this. Okay, we have a curve and we have a line. On the same diagram, sketch the curve and the line between this domain. So pretty easy. First, we have to sketch the curve y equal to 3 cos 2x. Now again, whenever we have such a curve, we will use a table of values. So x here and y, beginning with 0, obviously. And because we have 2 here, we take pi by 2 divided by 2. That will be pi by 4. That makes sense. Because we usually take 90 degrees divided by this value over here. That should be 45 degrees. And that should be pi by 4. Again, the reason why I do this is because I can find an interval that I can work with, so my values of y will be exact. For example, here my interval will be 45 degrees, which is pi by 4, plus pi by 4, plus pi by 4, and plus pi by 4. That should be these values, so that I can have exact values of y. So 3 cos, here we have to use radians. Here we have 2 times 0, that should be 0. That will be 3. And here we have pi over 4. So again, we have to use, 2, I forgot 2, so 3 cos 2 times pi over 4. That should be 0. Here we have pi over 2. That should be minus 3. Here we have 3 pi over 4. I'm missing 2 again, my apologies. So you have 3 cos. 2 times 3 is 6 pi over the value of 4. That will be 0. And finally, just for pi, that should be 2 pi, because here we have 2, we don't miss out the value of 2, right? That should be 3. As you can see, these are the values of y for the values of x, so we can kind of sketch this in the graph. Of course, you will be using a ruler for yourself, so you can have some exact values as you go through this question. That will be my x values and my y values. Let's say 3 is here, and minus 3 is over here. Here we have 0, here we have pi by 4, pi by 2, 3 pi by 4, and then finally pi, because that's all we need, right? Again, you'll be using a ruler and try your best, also a pencil, and try your best to join those points with a smooth line. First point is 0, 3, should be here, and this will be 0 here, and here we have this point, here we have this point, and here we have this point. So your graph will look something like this, right? Okay, so here you go. This is y equal to 3 cos 2x. Now for the other one, we have a straight line, which is x plus 2y equal to this. Now you can see this one is a straight line. For it, so because it is a straight line, we just need to find 2 points on the line and then join them by a straight line. For example, I can first find when x equal to 0, y will be pi by 2. So here we have a first point. 0 pi by 2 should be well. So I guess it is not easy to work with that point because it is not exact, right? Pi divided by 2, it is 1.57. I don't know exactly what that is. So let me kind of play with this. For example, if x equal to pi, right? That will be what? Pi. You have pi plus 2y equal to pi. So 2y will be 0. So y will be 0. So pi 0, that should be over here. That's the first point. And then what other points can I have? Again, it is only a sketch. We don't need to be exact. I guess I'll just go the other route. I'll just go with this point then. 0 and 1.57 should be somewhere over here. We can mark this as pi by 2, just to show that you know what value you found to join those two lines. So here you go. This will be my line. This is x plus 2y equal to pi. So that will be the sketch. Again, sketch doesn't need to be exact, but you have to show the point of interest. For example, the point here, and the points that we have joined to form those smooth curve. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Find the first 3 terms of this expansion in ascending powers of x. So first 3 terms, pretty easy. 6, choose 0. Here we have 2. Here we have minus x. Because here we have 0, this will have to be 0 as well. 6 minus 0 is 6. That will be my first term. And then next term will be 6, choose 1. Here we have 2, and here we have again minus x. Here we have 1, that will be 1. 6 minus 1 is 5. And then 6, choose 2. 2 here, minus x. Here we have 2, this will be 2 here. 6 minus 2 is 4. Again, here we have the 3 terms that we need for this expansion. So one by one, 6, choose 0, times 2 power 6. And that should be everything, right? So 2 power 6 will be 64, and that is 1. 6, choose 1 is 6 times 2 power 5, that is minus 192x, and plus 6 choose 2 is 15 times 2 power 4 is 240. So 240x squared. So the first 3 term will be 64 minus 192x plus 240x squared. That is part 1 of the question. Now for part 2, given that the coefficient of x squared in this expansion is 48, which means when you expand the whole thing here, you will have 48x squared, a term like this. Now we have to use that information to find the value of a. So let's use that. So here we have 1 plus 2x plus ax squared multiplied by this same thing that we used here, right? So we have to kind of use part 1, which is equal to 64 minus 192 plus 240 x squared. Okay, now in this expansion we only care about the term which is in x squared. We don't need the whole thing. We can pick and choose which one we can expand. I take 1, I have to multiply by which one? By this one, obviously it will have 1 times 240 x squared. Now if I take this one, here we have x already, so we have to multiply by this one. That will be plus 2x times 192x. And finally here we have a x squared multiplied by this one, because here we have x squared already. Now we have to simplify. You have 240. Here we have minus 192 times 2. That should be minus 384 x squared and plus 64 ax squared. So 240 minus 384, that should be minus 144 plus 64a, and we factorize the x squared outside. So something we know here according to the question is that the coefficient is supposed to be 48. So we understand that this value over here is supposed to give me the value of 48, so we can solve for the value of a. 64a will be 48 plus 144. So 48 plus 144, that should be 192. So 64a is equal to 192. So a will be divided by 64, that should be the value of 3. Okay, and that will be your answer for your question part 2 of finding the value of constant a. Now let's move on to the next question. The equation of the curve is given to you by y. Okay, now we have to find the coordinates of the stationary point on the curve and find its nature. So pretty easy. When you have to find the stationary point, we have to find dy by dx at which it is equal to 0. Pretty easy. First thing first, dy by dx, that will be first multiplied by the power, that is 4, then minus 1, that should be 3. Then here we have 4, and here we have 0. So you have 4x cubed plus 4, and we have to equate that to 0 to find the stationary point. That will be x cubed will be the value of minus 1, x will be just minus 1. Again, you can find this value, so this minus 1 should be minus 1. Okay, great. Now if this is minus 1, let's find the y value. Replace back in your main equation. That should be minus 1 power 4 plus 4 power times minus 1 plus 9. So you will have 1 minus 4 plus 9, that should be 6, and the point will be minus 1, 6. This is your stationary point. Now you have to find the nature. To find the nature, we have to look at d2y by dx2. So let's find that. So let's differentiate dy by dx to find d2y by dx2. So it will be 3 times 4 is 12, minus 1, that will be square, and this will become 0. Now here we have 12x squared. Now we have to find the value at the point where x equal to minus 1. That will be 12 times minus 1 square, that will be just 12. It is a positive value. So you can say, because it is a positive value, or it is more than 0, right? Because of that, we can confirm that the point is a minimum point. Okay, that is part 1 of your question. Now for part 2, we have to find the area of the region enclosed by the curve, the x-axis, and the lines this and this. So pretty easy. Well, I guess the main idea is that, for example, I have the y-axis, the x-axis over here. This is y-x. My curve, let's say it's something like this. We don't know, something like this, right? And I have the value here 0 and my value 1 over here. This is my vertical line. I'm trying to find the area enclosed by these lines. So pretty easy. How do you find area on the graph? We use integration. That will be limits of 1, 0, and y is given to you by x power 4 plus 4x plus 9, and dx, obviously. That will be x 5 over 5 plus 4x squared over 2 and plus 9x. And limits will be 1 and 0. So replace, you will have 1 over 5 plus 2 times 1 plus 9 and then minus 0. 1 over 5 plus 2 plus 9. That should be 11.2 units square for your area on the graph, or area enclosed by those curves and line. Let's move on to the next question. The diagram shows a semicircle ABC with center O right here and radius 6. This is 6. This also will have to be the value of 6, right? The point B is such that the angle BOA is 90. So BOA is 90, which means BOC is also 90. Might make sense, right? Now what else? We have BD is an arc. So BD of a circle with center A. For example, here we also have another circle, center A, which has an arc BD. Okay, I hope you can see that. So here we have a circle here, and this is the radius AD and AB. Now let's move on with the questions. So here we have what? We have this, and this is also 6, the radius. This is 6, right? Now part 1, we have to find the length of BD. So we have to find the length of the arc BD. So let's think, how can we find the length of arc? Usually we find the length of arc by using our formula, which is r times theta, right? That makes sense. R theta. R is the radius, theta is the angle inside. By observation, here the angle is here, theta, that we don't know, and the radius is here, that we don't know either. So we have to find those values first before we find the arc length BD. So one by one, what if I do this? For example, I look at this shape, I have a triangle inside. I have A, O, and B. This is 90, this is 6, and this is 6. So I can find this by using the Pythagoras theorem, because it is a right angle triangle. That should be 6 square plus 6 square have to be AB square. So AB have to be root of 36 plus 36, that will be 72. Okay, so now we have this length. 72 is the value of r, root of 72. Now to find this angle here, pretty easy as well. We use SOHCAHTOA, right? So we know this side, we know this side. This is my opposite side, this is my A side. We can use tan. So tan of the angle is going to be the opposite side over the A side. That will be theta. Tan inverse of 1, that will be pi by 4 as the angle in radians. Now tan inverse of 1 is what we have to know. So tan inverse of 1, let's use degrees so you guys know it is 45 degrees. Now we understand that 45 degrees is simply 180 divided by 4. So here, for us to use this formula here, we have to find the values in radians. So the angle here is pi by 4. So let's evaluate this. Pi divided by 4 times root of 72. That should be 6.66 for the length of arc BD. That is in centimeters. Now for part 2, we have to find the area of the region. So how can you find this area? So let's observe. It is the area right here. We may find the area of the whole thing first, and then minus the area of the triangle, right? By observation, we can find the whole thing. Whole thing is area of sector, half r square. R square, theta is the angle. That will be the area of the whole thing. Again, we have to know these formulas for this kind of question. Area of sector is half r square theta. Okay, now this is equal to what? So that will be half times 72. That should be 36 times 1 over 4. That should be 9. So that should be 9 pi. That makes sense because here this will go away. Cancel out, cancel out. This will be 36. And this will become 9. So 9 pi centimeters square for the area of the whole thing. Now we want to remove the area of the triangle to get this one. So pretty easy. This one is a right angle triangle. It will be half times base times height. That will be 3 times 6, that will be 18. So finally the area that we need is the whole thing minus 18. We can of course find the value for that. That will be 10.3 centimeters square for the area, correct to 3SF. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. A curve is such that dy by dx is given to you by this. Okay, where k is a constant to be found. Now part 1, given the tangents to the curve at this point and this point, they are perpendicular, find the value of k. So let's find out. So the tangent at this point, so let's find out. So dy by dx is what? It is a gradient of tangent. So we know that the gradient at this point is what? Have to be k minus 2 times 2. That should be k minus 4. That's the gradient at this point. How about this one now? Same steps. dy by dx at the value of x equal to 3. That will be k minus 2 times 3. That should be k minus 6. So now we know they are perpendicular, right? So it means that if you were to multiply the gradients by each other, it will give you the value of minus 1. So we have to know this. For example, if you have two lines, this is L and M. If the gradient of L multiplied by the gradient of M have to give you minus 1 because they are perpendicular to each other. So this is something we have to know to solve this question. So because they are perpendicular to each other, we multiply them by each other and they will give you the value of minus 1. So let's solve. Let's see what do we have here. So here we can expand. You will have k squared minus 4k minus 6k minus 24 equal to the value of, so this is plus 24 equal to minus 1. That will give you k squared minus 10k plus 25 equal to 0. We factorize. K squared is k times k, right? And 5 is, so 25 is 5 times 5. We need minus 10, that will be minus 5 minus 5. So k will be the value of 5 for this question. Part 1. Now part 2, given that also the curve passes through the point this, we have to find the equation of the curve. The equation of the curve means we have to find the value of y. So pretty easy. We understand that y is simply integration of dy by dx. That will be integration of k is 5 minus 2x with respect to dx. That will be 5x minus 2x squared over 2 plus c. So y right now it is 5x minus x squared plus c. Now c is a constant we need to find. The point here is 4, 9. This is my x value, my y value. Replace. Y will be 9 and my x will be 4. Minus 16 plus c. 9 equal to 20 minus 16 plus c. From here we can realize c will be what? 20 minus 16 is 4. 9 minus 4 is 5. So c will be the value of 5. So finally the equation y have to be 5x minus x squared plus 5. So the key point here we have to take away is we have to understand when we have two lines perpendicular to each other, we understand the product of their gradient will be minus 1. That's something we have to know. Now part 2, to find the equation of curve is to find y. Y is simply equal to integration of dy by dx for y. And that will be your question in relation to finding y by integration, but also knowing the relationship between two lines which are perpendicular. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. The equation of a curve is y, given to you right here. Now we have to obtain an expression for dy by dx, so pretty easy. First thing first, we can rewrite this as this, x squared plus 3 power minus 1. So dy by dx is pretty easy now. 12 is 12, we don't care about 12. Here we have to first multiply by the power, minus 1. Then we have to minus 1 to the power, it should be minus 2. Multiply by d by dx of the value inside, that will be 2x. Now from here we can simplify. That will be what? Minus 24x over the value of x squared plus 3 squared. Okay, so here you will have this as dy by dx. Now for part 2, find the equation of the normal to the curve at the point P. So how can you find the equation of the normal at the point P? So pretty easy. We know the normal is a straight line. We have to first find the gradient of normal. Again, same concept. To find the gradient of normal, we must first find the gradient of tangent, because we know that the normal and tangent, they are at 90 degrees to each other. But also, this is simply what? This is simply the gradient of tangent is simply dy by dx. So we know this already. So let's find that. dy by dx is equal to minus 24x over the value of x squared plus 3 squared at the point P where x is equal to 1. This is your x value and your y value. Replace, you will have minus 24 times 1 over the value of 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 squared is 16. Right? So minus 24 divided by 16, that should be minus 1.5. Okay, so that will be my gradient of tangent. Now, because they are perpendicular to each other, as we have seen before, we understand that the gradient of normal multiplied by gradient of tangent should be minus 1. Replace this back, you will have this multiplied by minus 1.5 should be minus 1. So this is pretty easy. Minus 1 divided by minus 1.5. That should be the value of 2 over 3. So this is the gradient of the normal. Now you have the gradient, you have a passing point, you can find the equation pretty easily. So y minus this corresponding value, 3, x minus this corresponding value is equal to the gradient. Now again, this is just the method that I use to find the equation of a straight line. If you have your own method, you can use your own method as well. Cross multiply, you will have 3y minus 9 is equal to 2x minus 2. 3y is equal to 2x minus 2 plus 9. So 3y will be 2x plus 7. That is my equation of the normal. Again, you can always make y become subject. It is up to you. You don't need to do that. Now for part 3, a point is moving along the curve in such a way that the x value is increasing at a rate of this. So it means that dx by dt, because when you have a rate, it is with respect to time, it is equal to 0.012. Now we have to find the rate of change of y. So we have to find the rate. Again, rate is time, so we have to find dy by dt. So we have to form an equation. So here we have dy on top, we write dy. And we have dt at the bottom, we have to write dt. Now what connects these two? Obviously we have only one thing that connects these two is dx. So dx and dx. Of course this is here multiply. But here we know this value already given to you by dx by dt 0.012, as you can see over here, right? Now what else do we need to know? We need to find this one, dy by dx at the value at P. Now we have to look at point P, it is 1, 3. We have to find dy by dx. So dy by dx, again, it is given to you right here at the value of P, where x is equal to 1. It was found to be minus 1.5. So we just replace back in the main equation. That will be minus 1.5 times 0.012. Let's see what happened. That will be minus 0.018 units per second. That will be the rate of change of y. Again, as you can see here, this was done here already. dy by dx when x equal to 1 equal to minus 1.5. So we know this value. We just put this back in the equation and then multiply to find this answer right here for part 3 of your question. Now let's move on to the next question. The first term of an AP is 8, so we know A has to be 8. And the common difference is D. This is D, where D cannot be 0. The first term, the fifth term, and the eighth term of this progression are the first term, second term, and third term of a GP, where the common ratio is 0. So let me write this down. So this is my AP. The first term is 8. Second term will be 8 plus D. Then we have 8 plus 2d, 8 plus 3d, and so on, right? My first term, second term, third, fourth term. So here I'm told that the first term, the fifth term, I can write this down, fifth term will be 8 plus, by comparison, 8 plus 40. And my eighth term, you can see eighth term will be 8 plus 70, right? So my first term, my fifth term, and my eighth term will be the first term of a GP. So now for the GP, my first term should be 8, my second term should be this one, and my third term should be 8 plus 70. Now again, if you guys don't know how to find this one, no problem. You can always use your formula, which is the n term is given to you by a plus n minus 1 times d. We're given a, we're given n, we just have to replace to find these terms, right? This is for your AP progression. Now here we have the common ratio is r. Okay, we don't know that. Part 1. We have to write down two equations connecting d and r. Hence, we have to show this is the value and then find the value of d. So pretty easy. So since we have this right now, we can connect them by an equation. Something we have to know is that the n term in a GP is a r n minus 1, right? So, for example, or even easier, from the first term, how do you get the second term? You have to multiply by r. And from the second term, how do you get to the third term? You have to multiply by r. So let's do this. If 8 times r has to be this one, that is my first equation. And here we have, if I take this one, multiply by r, I'm supposed to get the third term. That's how GP works, right? Every term is we have to multiply by the same thing to get the other one, multiply by the same thing to get the other one. That's why it's called the common ratio. Now let's solve. So here we have two equations. Let's solve for the value of r and d. So let's try to, I guess we can play with this. For example, I can take equation number 1 divided by equation number 2. You can try this if you want to as well, or you can solve this usually simultaneously, right? But here you can try this. So number 1 we have 8r equal to 8 plus 40. Now I divide by number 2, which is 8 plus 40 times r over 8 plus 70, right? Now we can simplify. This and this will cancel out. Okay, so right now we have that we can cross multiply. You will have 8 times 8 plus 70 equal to 8 plus 40 times 8 plus 40, so that will be square. That will be 64 plus 56d. Let's check. 8 times 7, that is 56 indeed. And here we can expand this. That will give you 64 plus 64d plus 16d square. So let's see what do we get over here. So here this will cancel out. And here we have 56d is equal to 64d plus 16d square. So 16d square, send this over here, you will have what? 64 minus 56, that will give you plus 8d, that will be 0. Right. So now I can factorize the d outside. That will be d, you have 16d plus 8, that will be 0. So d can be your value of 0, or it can be plus 8, that will be 0. So d will be minus 8 divided by 16, that should be minus half. So here we have found the value of d. We can go back and find the value of r, right? Replace back in here. 8 times r was 8 plus 4 times d. That was the value. 8 plus 4 times minus half. That should be 6. So r will be 6 divided by 8. That is 3 over 4. This is shown as required, and we have found the value of d as well. Okay, good. Part 1 done. Now for part 2, we have to find the sum to infinity of the GP, so pretty easy. Sum to infinity was a divided by 1 minus r. A was given to you by 8, 1 minus 3 over 4. Let's see what do we get. A divided by 1 minus 3 over 4, that should be 6. This is my sum to infinity. Again, this is a formula given to you. as well on your list. Now for part 3, find the sum of the first 8 terms of the AP. So it is again using our formula. Let me find some space over here. Sum of the first 8 terms will be half times the number of terms times 2a, a is 8, plus n minus 1, which is 7, 8 minus 1 is 7, times d, d was found to be minus 0.5. Okay, so let's find out. That'll be half times 8 will be 4, and on the inside you have 2 times 8 plus 7 times minus 0.5. Times 4, that should be 50. So your answer here for part 3 will be 50. I guess the hardest part was part 1. We have to form the equations and then solve one by one to find the value of d and r, and then eventually using those values to find the answer for part 2 and part 3. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Now we are given these position vectors AOA, OB, and OC. Good to know. So here, first thing we have to find the angle AOB. So from O going to A, O going to B. Pretty easy. So OA will be 2, 3 minus 6. OB will be 0 minus 6, 8. That will be magnitude of both of them. Let's find that out. Of OA and OB. And then cos of the angle AOB. Let's find those two values. Pretty easy. We have to square the values. So 2 squares 4 plus 3 squares 9 plus 6 squared is 36. That'll be root of 49. That should be 7. How about this one? 6 squares 36. 8 squared 64. That should be this. Square root. That should be 10. And here we have to find the scalar product. So 2 times 0 is 0. Plus 3 times this will be minus 18. Plus minus 6 times 8 should be minus 64. Minus 66 divided by 70, that will be cos of the angle AOB. Okay, so now we can solve. So minus 66 divided by 70, that should be this. And here we have to find cos inverse of the value. That should be 160.5 degrees, correct to 1 decimal place. Now for part 2, we have to find the vector in which is in the same direction as AC and has a magnitude of 30. Okay, so let's find out. What is the direction of AC? So let's first find that. AC is equal to OC minus OA. OC is given to you by minus 2, 5, minus 2. OA is 2, 3, minus 6. That will be the value of minus 4. This will be the value of 2, and that should be the value of 4. Right, so minus 2 plus 6 will be the value of 4. This is my vector AC, and this is the vector itself in this direction. Now, for me to find a vector in the same direction, I know it will be in this direction, but has a magnitude 30. So pretty easy. I need to first find the unit vector in the direction of AC. That will be AC, right? Divide by its magnitude. That will be 4 square plus 2 square plus 4 square. That should be this. Square root of that should be 6. So 6. That will be my unit vector or AC. Now, given the magnitude is 30, I have to multiply this by 30 to find the vector. So simplify, that should be 1, 5, that will be minus 4 times 5 will be minus 20. That should be 10, and that should be 20. Okay, this is your answer for part 2, which is the vector in the same direction as AC but magnitude of 30. That is part 2. Now for part 3, we have to find the value of P for which this and this is perpendicular to OC. So pretty easy. When it is perpendicular, we understand there dot product will be equal to 0, or the scalar product is 0. So let's first find those values, right? So OA is given to you by 2, 3 minus 6, plus POB, OB is given to you by 0 minus 6 and 8. And when we apply dot product against OC, which is minus 2, 5, minus 2, you're supposed to get the value of 0. That's the main equation we have to solve. Simplify. You have 2. Here we have 3 minus 6p minus 6 plus 8p right here. Dot of minus 2, 5 minus 2 have to be 0. Simplify. that will be minus 4. That should be what? 15 minus 30p, have plus 12 minus 16p. Has to be 0. So this and this will be minus 46p. And send everything over here, you will have what? Minus 4 plus 15 plus 12, that should be minus 23. So p will be the value of half, because this divided by 46 is half, right? This is p as your answer for part 3 of the question in regards to vectors. So a few things we have to know here. How do you find a vector in the same direction as this? So pretty easy. We first find the vector AC because it is in the same direction. Now we have to find the unit vector AC because we want to multiply by the magnitude 30 to find that vector we need to find. Okay, that's pretty easy now. This one is also pretty easy as well. When we have perpendicular, we understand the scalar product have to be 0. And again, this is pretty obvious using your formula. Now let's move on to the next question. Functions f and g are defined by these two, right? As you can see here, this is simply a straight line and this will be a curve. Now part 1, we have to solve this equation. So let's first find this one. What is g f of x? So pretty easy. G f of x, that will be 2 times f of x, that will be 2x plus 1 minus 1. Here we have f of x, that will be 2x plus 1 plus 3. Simplify, you will have 4x. So plus 2 minus 1 is plus 1 over 2x plus 4. E is equal to the value of x. So first thing first, cross multiply. Let's continue over here. 4x plus 1, that will be 2x squared plus 4x. Send everything to one side, you will have 2x squared minus 1 equal to 0. This will cancel out, obviously, right? And what else do we need to do? Now we have to solve x squared. That will be 1 over 2. So x will be plus minus 1 over 2. Okay, that will be part 1 of your question. Now let's move on to part 2. We have to express f inverse of x, g inverse of x in terms of x. So pretty easy, one by one. So first thing first, let y equal to f of x, which is this plus this. Then make x become subject. You have 2x equal to y minus 1. X will be y minus 1 divided by 2. From this we conclude f inverse of x, it is in terms of x, we have to write x minus 1 over 2. Now this one same thing as well, so let y equal to g of x, which is 2x minus 1 over the value of x plus 3. Now we have to cross multiply because we're trying to make x become subject. That will be xy plus 3y is equal to 2x minus 1. Now we have to send x to one side. You will have xy minus 2x have to be minus 3y minus 1. So factorize x outside, you will have this minus 2, this. Now we have x have to be minus 3y minus 1 over the value of y minus 2. So g inverse in terms of x, we can write this the same way. There's no problem with that, right? Or you can also rewrite this as, simplify this as well, because you want to take out the value of minus outside. That will become 3y plus 1, because here we have minus. If we bring it below, it will become 2 minus 1. Same thing. Okay, both are the same thing. That will be part 2 of the question. Now for part 3, we have to show that the equation this has no solutions. So no solutions, we have to look at the discriminant, b squared minus 4ac. When it has no solutions, it means this have to be equal to less than minus 0. So let's see what can we do here. So g inverse of x is equal to, so here I forgot something, it needs to be in terms of x. That will be the same equation, minus 3x minus 1, this over 2, x again. So here we have y, sorry, here we have y, but here I have 2x, and that should equal to x. So now we cross multiply, you will have what? Let's see, that will give you minus 3x minus 1 give you x squared minus 2x. So x squared minus 2x plus 3x plus 1, so x squared plus x plus 1. That should be 1 here, 1 here. Now this is the value of a, b, and c. So let's find out what is b squared minus 4ac. b squared minus 4ac. b squared is 1 minus 4 times 1 times c that will be minus 3, which is less than 0. Again, because we have shown that it is less than 0, it means it has no real roots. No roots, no solutions, shown as required. Now for the last one, we have to sketch the graph of y and inverse of, also f of x and inverse of f of x, making clear the relationship between the graphs. Always is going to be the case, so make a note of that. The relationship between inverse and the graph is a reflection in the line y equal to x. It's always going to be the case. So let me kind of draw the graph here. So let's first, we have f of x, which is y equal to f of x is 2x plus 1. This is simply a straight line, right? When x equal to 0, y will be 1. X equal to 1, y will be the value of 3, right? We have two passing points, we can form that straight line. This is the y-axis and the x-axis. The first point, let's say it's here, for example, and the second point, let's say it's somewhere over here, for example. Now by joining those two, I will form my straight line, right? This will be my straight line, for example, right? And then I understand that it has to be a reflection in the line of y equal to x. I need to show that line as well, because that's what the question needs to know, that I understand the relationship between them. So let me continue this some more so you can see clearly what's happening. Now after doing this, I just need to reflect. This should be somewhere over here, somewhere over here. For example, kind of reflection over here. I think it's not perfect, but you get the idea. It needs to reflect exactly onto my line. It should be somewhere over this. As you can see, label this as y equal to x, and this one will be f of x, and this one will be f inverse of x. So this is 1 point, and this is also your point, 3 points, by showing these three things. Okay, again, this is the relationship between those two lines. And that will be your question in relation to function. So something here I want to point out is you have to be careful over here. For example, for the first question, because x is defined for more than 0, we cannot give both answers. We have to give only one of them, which is this one. So we have to be careful for these kind of question. You don't want to lose easy marks, right? That is why we have to be careful with the domain given to you or allowed by the question, and then we have to choose which one is the correct one.